Okay, guys, we're gonna do this.
So good morning, everybody. If I stand here, I think everybody can see me. So, one of the things that you will learn about me is that I like watching Animal Planet. Although I'm not fortunate enough to have cable so that I can watch it all the time. But this weekend, I was on YouTube and I went to the Animal Planet channel because I was in that mood. And I noticed that there was a full episode of Northwood's Law up for anybody to watch. And I was very excited. Yes, I like to watch Northwood's Law. It's really funny for me, especially when they're in Maine, and you're like, "Hey, I think I know that warden. Hey, I think I've been there." I know some of these people. So the episode that I was watching, there were some moose hunters up in Aroostook County, lost in the woods, and one was a younger guy, and one was a guy in his 70s. And evidently when this was filmed, it was about that time of the year where the seasons start to change, and it feels nice during the day, but at night it gets below freezing. And so the wardens were worried about the older guy staying outside in the woods in the freezing cold temperatures. And so they were able to somehow, with the spotty cell phone reception, because you know how Maine is, there's dead zones everywhere, they were able to call the game warden's office and let them know, "Hey, we're lost. Can you come find us?" So they took the cell phone tower and were able to narrow down like where in the woods within like a certain square mileage of where they were. So the guy's on the phone, and the dispatcher connects him to the warden's cell phone. And the warden's like, "Okay, so here's what we're gonna do to find you. So what I'm gonna do, I'm in this clearing by the power lines. I'm gonna shoot my gun into a tree, and when you hear it, now make sure you shoot your gun into a big tree, because soon I'm gonna be walking through the woods and you don't wanna accidentally shoot me." So the warden shoots his gun, and his instructions to the people are: wait, listen, when you hear that gunshot, shoot your gun. And that way I can take my compass, because the people lost in the woods didn't have their compass. They were trying to use their cell phone GPS, which you know how Maine is. Cell phone reception drops all the time. And so the warden shoots his gun, and the people in the woods hear his gunshot, and they shoot their gun. And so the warden's like, "All right, I've got the compass directions. I know what direction you're in. It sounds like you're not too far away. Now me and my dog are gonna come in the woods. All you need to do is stay put and listen, because every now and then I'm gonna shoot my gun, and I want you to shoot your gun. That way I can make sure I'm still going the correct direction so that we can find you." So the people are in the woods and they're waiting, and they hear the gunshot, and they're like, oh, okay, we'll shoot our gun. But you know what? That sounds awfully close to us. I think we're just gonna move towards the gunshot. And so they move, and the warden shoots his gun again, and they shoot their gun again, and they start moving towards the gunshot. And, you know, it's getting darker and darker, because, you know, this is the time of year where the sun goes down about 5 o'clock. And they're getting more and more frantic. Why? Why can't this warden find us? He said he wasn't that far away. Like, you know, we heard his gunshot. He was just like right over there. Why can't he find us? So they become more frantic. And they start moving around even more, trying to, you know, find out where the warden is. And gunshot, okay, we'll walk towards the gunshot. Gunshot, walk towards the gunshot. Run through the woods. And so finally, they get a call from the dispatcher. They managed to find the one spot in the woods that had good reception. And the warden managed to find the one spot in the woods that he could find good reception. And the dispatcher says, hey, the warden says he's having a hard time finding you. Are you guys moving around? Oh yeah, we thought we would help him out by walking towards his gunshot. Okay, so what was the two things the warden said you had to do? Oh yeah, we were supposed to listen for his gunshot and shoot. Well, what was the other thing that he said to do? Oh. Stay put. So finally, after hours and hours of chasing each other around the woods, these people finally stay put long enough for the warden to find them and get them to safety. So today, we are going to be reading from Exodus 14. So last week, Steve preached about the plagues and let my people go, and how the Pharaoh's magician's solution to Moses performing all these tricks was, hey, you can make frogs appear. Well, we'll make even more frogs appear, because that's totally what Pharaoh wants us to do. And on top of that, the Passover happens. The people of God paint blood over their doors, and all of the firstborn in Egypt are killed except for those who have the blood on the door. So all of this has happened, and we get to Exodus 14, and it says, then the Lord said to Moses, tell the Israelites to turn back and camp in front of Pi-hahiroth, between Migdal and the sea, in front of Baal-zephon. You shall camp opposite it by the sea. Pharaoh will say of the Israelites, they are wandering aimlessly in the land. The wilderness has closed in on them. I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them so that I will gain glory for myself over Pharaoh and all his armies, and the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord. And they did so. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, the minds of Pharaoh and his officials were changed towards the people. And they said, what have we done, letting Israel leave our service? So he had his chariot made ready and took his army with him. He took 600 picked chariots and all the other chariots of Egypt with officers over all of them. The Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued the Israelites who were going out boldly. The Egyptians pursued them, all Pharaoh's horses and chariots, his chariot drivers and his army. They overtook them, camped by the sea, by Pi-hahiroth in front of Baal-zephon. As Pharaoh drew near, the Israelites looked back, and there were the Egyptians advancing on them. In great fear, the Israelites cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you have taken us away to die in the wilderness? Is this not the very thing we told you in Egypt? Let us alone and let us serve the Egyptians. For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. But Moses said to the people, do not be afraid. Stand firm. See the deliverance that the Lord will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to keep still. Then the Lord said to Moses, Why do you cry out to me? Tell the Israelites to go forward. But you lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it, that the Israelites may go into the sea on the dry ground. Then I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will go in after them, and so I will gain glory for myself over Pharaoh and all his army, his chariots and his chariot drivers. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord when I have gained glory for myself over Pharaoh, his chariots, and his chariot drivers. The angel of God, who was going before the Israelite army, moved and went behind them. And the pillar of cloud moved from in front of them and took its place behind them. It came between the army of Egypt and the army of Israel. And so the cloud was there with the darkness, and it lit up the night. One did not come near the other all night. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea. The Lord drove the sea back by a strong east wind all night and turned the sea into dry land, and the waters were divided. Then the Israelites went into the sea on dry ground, the waters forming a wall for them on their right and on their left. The Egyptians pursued and went into the sea after them, all of Pharaoh's horses, chariots, and chariot drivers. At the morning watch, the Lord in the pillar of fire and cloud looked down upon the Egyptian army and threw the Egyptian army into a panic. He clogged their chariot wheels so that they turned with difficulty. The Egyptians said, "Let us flee from the Israelites, for the Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, so that the water may come back upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots and chariot drivers." So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at dawn the sea returned to its normal depth. As the Egyptians fled before it, the Lord returned and covered the chariots and the chariot drivers, the entire army of Pharaoh that had followed them into the sea. Not one of them remained. But the Israelites walked on dry ground through the sea, the waters forming a wall for them on their right and on their left. Thus, the Lord saved Israel that day from the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Israel saw the great works that the Lord did against the Egyptians, so the people feared the Lord and believed in the Lord and in his servant Moses. The word of the Lord. So this is a story that I have heard since I was a child. I think for most people, when they think about the parting of the sea, they imagine the Charlton Heston movie where he's raising his arms and the sea parts. I find it interesting that in this story, that there's things you notice the more times you read. There's things and details you pick up that you never noticed before. And the thing I noticed before is the sea didn't just go whoosh. It's Moses holds up his hand all night and it goes until it's finally 2 walls of water. That took some time. The other thing that's tempting to do about this story is to focus on the awesome thing that God does here. This awesome miracle of dividing the waters, the drowning of Pharaoh's army, the walking across the dry land in the middle of the sea of the Israelites. But this time around, this read, I started at the beginning of chapter 15 for a reason. See, normally we just cut straight to they were trapped and then they walked across the water. But something happened before then. In verse 13 through 14, it says, Moses answered the people, "Do not be afraid, stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. So the Israelites have a frequent problem. And the more and more we go into the wilderness with them, the more and more this problem is going to come up. So we have preached the past couple of weeks about what has led to this grand moment of crossing the sea. Moses has already performed all of these signs. He's made frogs and gnats and turned the sea into blood and all of this stuff. On top of that, the Passover just happened. God kills all the firstborn in Israel, in Egypt. Sorry, guys. And the Israelites' instruction is paint blood over the door and be ready to go. And God passes over them. And then God says, okay, Pharaoh's agreed to let you go. Gather your stuff, head out to the sea. That's your job. Gather your stuff, go head out to the sea. So they get to the sea, and Pharaoh going, wait a minute, who's going to do all the work? You know, I have all these building projects that are halfway done that all of these slaves worked on. And wait a minute, I just let them go. That was stupid. Who's going to do all the work? I'm not. And so he sends his army after them. And the people of God panic. Why have you brought us out here to die? Yeah, they sound like Nathan does right now. Why have you done this to us? Why did you bring us out here to die, Moses? We would have been better back with the Egyptians, because at least they fed us and clothed us, and we had a place to sleep. And we didn't get slaughtered next to the sea. We were alive. May not have been the best life, but we were alive. Why'd you do this? We're gonna die. We're gonna die. And they're panicking. And Moses goes out to the sea and has started raising his hand over the sea. Pillar of fire and smoke are behind the people, blocking the army away. And you can imagine Aaron, the spokesperson. So Moses, me and the people have been talking. What's your plan? I'm going to hold my arm up. God told me to hold my arm up and that the sea's going to part. So you may not have noticed, Moses, but there's an army right over there. That army's going to kill us. So do you think maybe we should just go around the sea? Or maybe just go back, and then our people won't die. Like, why are you standing here, holding your hand up over this lake, this sea? We're gonna die. And I feel like Moses and God feel like a lot of parents do on car trips. You're sitting there trying to navigate, and your kids are fighting in the back of the seat. When are we gonna get there? I'm hungry. I'm tired. He looked at me. He won't stop it. And God and Moses pull a parent moment and say, be quiet. Stop. Or, Do I need to pull this car over and stop? Be still. Be ready. You see, when you're trying to make a decision, if you've been at any kind of teen function, you know how this feels. Steve and I frequently lead at teen camp. And oftentimes, for example, you're at the meal. It's your first time having the meal, and you're trying to give instructions to a group of 50 teenagers, and they're all talking. I'm hungry. When are we going to eat? Oh, it's so hot. Why can't we just eat? Whine. And finally, you just have to be like, well, guys, if you would just be quiet for a little bit, I would tell you what's going to happen. I need you quiet so you can hear the instructions. And this is what God is telling the Israelites. He's not just telling them, be quiet, be still, don't move, be passive, do nothing. What God is saying is, I'm about to do something. And if you're sitting here whining and complaining and being so loud that you can't hear Moses, you're not going to hear the instructions. So be still and be prepared. And once they finally settle down, and Moses has held his arm up over the water, Moses says, okay now, so we're going to walk through the lake, the sea. So you need to have all of your supplies packed and ready to go. Have all of your family members gathered. Put the old people in the carts, the babies in the carts, and get ready to go. Because we're about to leave. And God is going to save us from the Egyptians. And so the people finally settle down. They get ready. They pack their stuff up. They get all their people ready to wait for the signal when Moses says, all right, let's go. And they go. They cross the sea. And the Egyptians get stuck and swallowed by the waters. They live. God takes this moment of chaos and brings order. So, in the story at the beginning of this sermon, Northwood's Law, it talked about this group of people wandering around in the woods, not listening to instructions. And the Israelites are doing the same thing. They're trying to wander around and not listen to instructions. In this current moment that we are living in, there is so much chaos. We're dealing with COVID-19. We're dealing with racial tensions. We're dealing with the political tensions. We have natural disasters happening all over the place. There's fires, there's hurricanes, there's earthquakes, and it feels like each month there's something new. I mean, there's a joke on the internet about how, hey, did anybody say wildfires for September? Because you get a bingo on your bingo card. We're at this point where, like, we're not too surprised by chaos happening right now. It just seems inevitable. It's chaotic. It's wild. It's a little bit crazy. And this kind of chaos that's going on, this chaos that's all around us, can be overwhelming. Can make us be afraid. I don't know about you guys, but it can ratchet up your anxiety. Oh, dude, my anxiety has never been higher than it has been the past 6 months. There seems to be something every day that just drives it up and up and up and up. Fear, anxiety, anger, frustration, grief. And it's so easy to feel overwhelmed. And we feel like we have to do something about it. I don't know if you're about me. I'm a doer. I need to do something. I need to talk about it. I need to move. I need something happening. I don't like to sit still and wait. God, can you not see what's happening in the world? Do you not see all of this chaos, this tension, this hurt, this pain, this grief, this anger? Why aren't you doing anything about it? Why can't I do anything about it? And so too often, we end up like the guys in the woods. God has said, hey, I need you to be quiet and listen and be ready because I'm doing something. I'm doing something. There is work happening. But you need to be still and listen and hear my instructions, to hear what's going on, to hear what I want you to do. But too often, we're like the guys in the woods. God's like, hey, you need to be still and listen to my voice so that you know what I want you to do in the world right now. And we're like, yeah, I'm going to go over here. And then we get over there and we're like, God, where are you? I'm lost. I'm trapped. Help. And God's like, I told you to stay still and listen. But God, I want to go over there. And so we wander off in the woods and we're playing this game of tag with God, where God's telling us to hold still long enough and listen so that we can hear what he's trying to tell us to do and where he's trying to tell us to go, and trying to show us how he's working in the world when it seems so crazy and chaotic. But we're too busy running around with our pants on fire. We're like Chicken Little. The sky is falling. And we won't stop long enough to hear what God's trying to say to us. We're like the Israelites. There's an army. It would have been better if we'd lived in our bondage and slavery than to die out here. Even though God just performed all of these miraculous things that's led to their freedom, when this moment of chaos and tension happens, they break. They forget that God literally just had Passover. He passed over them. He just did this. And they can't for 1 minute hold still long enough to let God do the work he's trying to do. Just stop. Listen. Wait. God's got to take a second to part the sea, guys. 1 night. Just give him 1 night. But we're like the hunters. We let the world shift us about aimlessly in our life. We get moved about by our anxiety, by our fear, by the tension in the world, and we forget to stop and listen. We forget that Jesus says that we don't bear this yoke alone. God works alongside of us. God has sent his Spirit to us so that we're never in this alone. And church, too many times, we think we know better than God. And we don't wait. So in this moment of chaos, in this time in our life, in this tension in our world, where it's so tempting to run around like a chicken little, the end is here. Ah! Have you stopped and listened to what God might be trying to tell you to do? In our pursuit of trying to figure out how to deal with this anxiety, how to deal with this fear, how to deal with this anger, have you stopped to maybe think that God's trying to tell you something, but you just won't hold still long enough to hear him? So right now, we're going to move into a moment of prayer where a moment of prayer, our moment of offering, of thanksgiving, where when we talk about offering, we talk about it not just as something that has to do with money, but it's this idea of giving of ourself, giving of our time, giving of our money, giving of our gifts and graces. And I think especially in this moment, we should stop and think like, how is God, what is God trying to tell us to do? What part of ourselves is God asking us to gift to the world? How can we participate in how God is taking this chaos and bringing it to peace? How God is dividing the waters and bringing us safely through the troubles. How is God asking you to participate in this? So let's pray. Lord, we praise you for your patience. We thank you that you are not a God of chaos, that you bring order to this creation. You bring peace. You part the waters and bring us out of our troubles. We thank you that we do not walk through this world alone, but you have sent your Spirit to us. You have sent your church to us so that we are not alone in the chaos of this world. Lord, when we are tempted to run around like crazy, to let fear and doubt and worry overwhelm us, speak peace into our hearts. Help us to be still, to be ready, to listen, to hear where you are calling us to work in your world, to stop long enough to see where you are working, to go where you are, and to be a part of that work. Help us to be peace bringers. Help us to be people who don't add to the chaos, but instead help bring your hope, your peace, your joy, and your order. Lord, I thank you for everything that you have done to us, for everything that you have given to us, and how you continue to provide for us in your will. In your name I pray. Amen.